The Maxton Hall season 2 episode 4 trailer didn't just tease drama, it quietly warned us that everything we thought was safe is about to fall apart. Because James is no longer just broken, he is being pushed toward a point where even Ruby might not be able to save him if she reaches him too late. Section 1. Episode 4 begins exactly where fear takes over hope, because after Mortimer pulled James away from the event in front of everyone, James is no longer just a grieving son. He has become a prisoner of his own family power, and the trailer makes it clear that Mortimer is not trying to protect James. He is trying to erase him, because in Mortimer's world, weakness is a disease, and James just exposed his to the entire school, which means the name Beaufort is now in danger. And that is something Mortimer will never forgive, especially when the heir he raised to be strong just admitted he is falling apart. What makes this even more terrifying is that James does not fight back, because for the first time in his life, he is too tired to pretend, too tired to be strong, and too hurt to argue. And when someone like Mortimer notices that weakness, it becomes a weapon instead of something to heal. At the same time, Ruby feels something is wrong even before she hears it. Because after everything they went through, that sudden silence from James is louder than any fight they ever had, and when you care about someone who is drowning, silence is the most dangerous sign of all. Ruby knows James did not walk away from her by choice, and the trailer shows her slowly realizing that Mortimer is the wall standing between them, and that changes everything. Because now this is no longer just a love story, it has become a battle against control and fear. While James is locked away in his father's world of rules and pressure, Ruby is out there in the real world where emotions are allowed, and that contrast makes their separation even more painful, because James is finally learning how to feel, but the person who taught him how to do that is being kept away from him. And that is why this episode feels so heavy, because we are watching someone finally start to heal, only to be dragged. As all this pressure keeps building, James begins to realize that being away from Ruby is slowly breaking him more than anything his father ever did, because for the first time in his life, someone loved him, not for his name, not for his money, but for who he really was. And now that connection has been cut off, it feels like he is losing himself again. Even though he tries to stay strong, the trailer makes it clear that James is struggling to hold on to the progress he made in therapy. Because isolation has a way of making old wounds feel fresh, and when Mortimer keeps reminding him of his responsibilities and his failures, James starts questioning whether he deserves happiness at all. This inner battle is just as painful as the external one, because no matter how much Ruby believes in him, James still has to fight the voice in his head telling him he is not enough. Ruby, on the other hand, is getting closer to the truth. And the more she understands Mortimer's influence, the more fearless she becomes. Because when you love someone deeply, fear slowly turns into courage, and Ruby is no longer willing to let power separate her from James. She begins to push against the walls that have been built around him, and even though she does not know exactly how she will break through, she knows she cannot give up now, especially after seeing how much James changed for her. This is where their love story stops being soft and romantic and becomes something brave and dangerous, because Ruby is now fighting a man who has controlled everything in James's life. Meanwhile, Lydia is living in quiet panic because she feels her secret slipping away from her control. And the closer Sirill gets to her, the more she worries that he might discover the truth before she is ready. Her pregnancy is no longer just her own burden. It is becoming something that could destroy her entire family. And she knows that once Mortimer finds out, there will be no mercy. At the same time, Sirill is watching everything with growing bitterness, and his broken dreams are slowly turning into a desire to make someone else feel the same pain he feels inside, which makes Lydia's position even more dangerous. All of this makes episode 4 feel like the calm before a storm, because everyone is standing on the edge of something that could change their lives forever. And even though love, hope, and dreams are still there, they are being pushed against fear, control, and revenge. And we all know that when those forces collide, something always breaks. While James remains trapped under Mortimer's control, Ruby does not sit still, because the moment she realizes that he has been taken away from school and cut off from everyone, her fear turns into determination, and this is where we truly see how much she has changed since season 1, because the old Ruby would have waited and hoped. But the new Ruby knows that love sometimes means fighting against powerful people who think they own everything. She starts connecting the dots between Mortimer's anger at the event and James suddenly disappearing. And in her heart, she knows this is not about protection, it is about punishment, because Mortimer cannot accept a son who chose honesty over image. At the same time, James is sinking deeper into isolation, and the more he is kept away from Ruby, the more he begins to doubt himself again. Because even though therapy helped him open up, being trapped in his father's shadow pulls him right back into that old feeling of being useless and disappointing, and that is the most dangerous place for James to be, because that is where he starts believing he deserves this suffering. Meanwhile, Lydia's situation becomes heavier with every passing hour, because people at school are starting to notice the changes in her body, and whispers are slowly replacing sympathy. And even though Ruby tries to stay by her side, Lydia knows that her life is about to be judged by people who do not understand her pain. What hurts her the most is not just the fear of being exposed, but the knowledge that her father would see her pregnancy not as a human moment, but as a shameful mistake that threatens the family's reputation. Lydia wants to be strong, but strength is hard when you feel like your own family would abandon you if they knew the truth. At the same time, Sirill's frustration is turning into something much darker, because losing his Oxford chance did not just take away his future, it also destroyed the one thing that made him feel equal to James. And now that James is still being supported by Ruby and admired by others, Sirill feels like life has chosen a favorite and left him behind. His feelings for Lydia make everything even more complicated, because when love mixes with jealousy and pain, it becomes unpredictable. And the trailer hints that once he discovers her pregnancy, he will not keep that secret to himself. This creates a dangerous triangle, because Sirill could expose Lydia, not just to hurt her, but to hurt James and Ruby at the same time, turning their happiness into something fragile. As Ruby pushes harder to reach James, she begins to understand that getting him back will not be easy, because Mortimer controls more than just his son. He controls the system around him, including the school. And that means Ruby might have to challenge the very place that once gave her opportunities. This is where episode 4 starts to feel truly shocking, because love is no longer enough on its own, and every character is now standing on a thin line between hope and disaster, and one wrong move could push all of them into a future they never wanted.